Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. This time, we're taking a deep dive into Carol Dweck's Mindset, really a book all about how the way we think our beliefs can seriously impact our success. I know you guys are all about learning new things quickly and effectively, and that's exactly what this deep dive is all about, giving you those tools and those insights that you can use right away. And it really boils down to this. Are we stuck with the abilities we're born with, or can we actually kind of develop those abilities?
Yeah.
Can we grow?
That is the question, isn't it?
Mm.
And Dweck really dives right into it by talking about these two contrasting mindsets, the fixed mindset and the growth mindset.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Let's start with this fixed mindset. I'm kind of picturing someone who's convinced they've peaked, right? Like this is as good as it gets.
Yeah.
What are like the signs? What should we be looking for to identify if someone has this fixed mindset?
Well, they basically see their intelligence and their talents as like fixed. Like, it's like a deck of cards, you get what you get.
Yeah.
And so because of that, they're really focused on proving themselves. They're always seeking validation. And that means challenges are terrifying to them, right? Because if they fail, then that means they just weren't good enough to begin with.
It's like they're so afraid of failing that they don't even want to try, right? It's
Yeah.
like instead of seeing a challenge as a chance to learn, they see it as like this huge threat to their ego.
Exactly.
And Dweck uses a really powerful example of this with Loretta's experience in kindergarten. Can you remind us about that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So Loretta takes this simple placement test, it's kindergarten, and she ends up getting placed in a less advanced group. And just think about the impact of that on a 5-year-old. It basically just reinforces this idea that, one evaluation can define you forever,
Wow.
it's kind of tragic because she might carry that with her for years to come.
Well, and it makes you wonder, like, how many of us have been shaped by similar experiences, maybe without even realizing it, You go through life and you think, oh, I'm just not good at math, or I'm just not a creative person. And it might stem back to something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And Dweck also talks about John McEnroe, the tennis star, infamous for his temper, his outbursts on the court.
Right.
Why does she bring him up?
Well, McEnroe, even with all his victories, he just couldn't handle losing. I mean, for him, it wasn't just about the match. It was a direct attack on his identity. Just think about the emotional toll of tying your self-worth to every single win or loss.
It's exhausting. It's like he was constantly battling this fear of not being good enough, even though he was at the top of his game.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And then, and this fixed mindset isn't just about how we feel. It can actually hold us back from reaching our full potential. And you brought up Billy Beane, the baseball prodigy who's featured in Moneyball as an example of this.
Right.
Wait, hold on, though. I wouldn't call Billy Beane a failure at all, right? I mean, he went on to revolutionize baseball management.
Exactly. And that's the point, right? Because as a player, he had that fixed mindset and it made him just crumble under pressure. He just couldn't handle setbacks, learn from his mistakes, and ultimately that really did impact his performance. And it was only later when he became a manager that he actually started to embrace more of a growth mindset, which allowed him to unlock his potential, but in a different role.
So it's like he had this natural talent, but that fixed mindset was actually holding him back from reaching his full potential, at least as a player.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so if the fixed mindset is all about limitations, then I'm guessing the growth mindset is all about breaking free from those self-imposed boundaries.
Exactly.
So what's the core belief here? What's the difference?
Well, it's basically the understanding that your abilities aren't set in stone. You can develop them through hard work and dedication.
Mm.
People with a growth mindset, they embrace challenges, they persist through those setbacks, and they view effort not as a weakness, but as the key to unlocking their potential.
It's like they see every experience, even the tough ones, as like an opportunity for growth.
Right.
And Dweck highlights this with Darwin Smith, the CEO who led Kimberly-Clark to huge success, right? So what was it about his story that was so compelling?
Well, here's this CEO. He's at the pinnacle of his career, and yet he never stopped learning. He never stopped trying to improve. He famously said, I never stopped trying to be qualified for the job. Just imagine, the impact of that attitude on the entire company culture.
It's amazing. And it kind of flips the script on what we typically think of as success, right? It's not about arriving. It's about constantly striving to become better.
Yeah.
And speaking of striving, let's talk about Patricia Miranda, the Olympic wrestler, right? So what's her story?
Well, so what's fascinating about Miranda is that she came from a very privileged background. But after her mother passed away, she felt this really deep urge to push her limits, So she chose wrestling, of all things.
Wow.
Yeah, she chose that grueling world of wrestling.
And not only did she choose it, but she excelled at it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
she won a bronze medal at the Olympics.
She did. And even after achieving that Olympic glory, she actually went on to challenge herself even further at Yale Law School. So for her, the thrill was in starting at the bottom again, proving to herself that she could succeed through that effort and dedication.
It's like she was addicted to the growth process itself, right?
Right.
It wasn't about the medals. It wasn't about the degrees. It was about that constant push to become better.
Exactly.
And this reminds me of Christopher Reeve's story, Even facing unimaginable adversity after his accident, he refused to give up.
Reeve's story is really a powerful testament to, the human spirit's resilience when it's fueled by that growth mindset. He chose to focus on what was possible, not on what he had lost.
It's almost like he redefined what it meant to be limited. He chose to see the potential for growth even when facing like these seemingly impossible obstacles.
Exactly. And it really highlights the transformative power of this mindset, right?
Yeah.
It's not about ignoring reality. It's about approaching it with the belief that things can change, that we can adapt, and that we can grow no matter what.
It's really inspiring. And so we've seen how this plays out in individual achievements, but Dweck doesn't stop there, right?
Wrong.
She takes this concept and she applies it to relationships as well, right?
Yeah.
She's got a whole section called Mindset in Relationships.
It does.
So let's dive into that. So how do these mindsets shape our interactions with partners and ultimately how, happy and fulfilling our relationships are?
It's a fascinating area.
Yeah. So let's kind of flip the script here. If a growth mindset, we've kind of established that leads to strong, evolving relationships. What does a fixed mindset look like in a romantic relationship?
Well, think of it this way. If you have a fixed mindset, you're much more likely to judge your partner for their flaws.
Okay.
You might see disagreements as like deal breakers, thinking this is just who they are, they'll never change.
Right.
And this can lead to resentment, and you can start to feel trapped in the relationship.
So rather than seeing your partner as someone who can grow and evolve, you see them as like a finished product.
Yeah, flaws and all.
Flaws and all. And, Dweck, she illustrates this with Penelope, a woman who she jumps from one relationship to another. She's constantly on the hunt for, the one. But because of her fixed mindset, any like minor flaw becomes this huge reason to call it quits.
Yeah, always chasing the elusive perfect partner.
I think we all know a Penelope, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
And it's a common trap, and it highlights how this fixed mindset can really sabotage our chances of building something real and lasting.
Yeah.
And then Dweck also talks about Brenda and Jack, a couple who are struggling with like just basic communication. Right. So what's their story?
Well, they're just constantly misinterpreting each other's intentions.
Yeah.
And they're always blaming each other's personalities. And it's a classic example of how a fixed mindset leads to these like communication breakdowns because you're so stuck in judging the person, not understanding the situation.
They're so focused on who's right and who's wrong that they miss the opportunity to actually connect and resolve the issue.
Exactly. Yeah, and it just creates this vicious cycle of negativity and frustration.
So, all right, so let's flip it again and paint a picture of what a growth mindset looks like in a relationship. What are those like key differences?
Well, instead of focusing on your partner's flaws, you see them as someone who's capable of growth. You're more open to communication, to compromise, and to understanding, especially when those conflicts arise. You view problems as opportunities to learn and grow together.
So instead of saying, that classic, you always do this, it's more like, hey, this is bothering me. Can we talk about this and figure out, a solution together?
Right. You're approaching the relationship as a shared journey of growth and discovery, where both partners are supporting each other's development.
It's much more positive.
Yeah.
It's much more collaborative.
Yeah.
It's like you're a team working together rather than two individuals battling it out.
Exactly.
It sounds so much healthier, so much better, just more fulfilling, right? But it kind of begs the question, can we shift our mindset? Like if we realize, oh no, I have a fixed mindset, is this something that we can actively change?
Oh, absolutely. Dweck, she really emphasizes that just learning about these mindsets, that's a huge first step.
Okay.
But you're right. Knowledge alone isn't enough. We have to actually, actively challenge those fixed mindset beliefs and start adopting a more growth-oriented perspective.
So it's about becoming more aware of those moments when we think, I can't do this, or I'm not good enough, and actually consciously choosing a different response.
Yeah.
But how do we actually do that? Like, what are some practical tips?
Well, one really effective way is through something called implementation intentions.
Okay.
I know it sounds kind of complicated,
Yeah.
but it's basically just creating a concrete plan for how you'll respond to those fixed mindset triggers.
So it's like pre-programming your reaction.
Exactly. So for example, if you tend to get really defensive when you're receiving criticism, your implementation intention might be, okay, when I receive critical feedback, I'm going to take a deep breath, I'm going to ask clarifying questions, and I'm going to thank the person for their insights.
It's about replacing that like knee-jerk negative reaction with a more a more growth-oriented response.
Yeah. And the more we practice this, the stronger our willpower becomes. Dweck, she compares willpower to a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
So every time we choose that growth mindset response, we're essentially like, doing a mental workout. We're building up our resilience, and it makes it easier to choose growth in the future.
Exactly. Exactly. And this isn't about becoming, some perfectly enlightened being. We're always going to have those, fixed mindset tendencies are going to be lurking in the shadows. But by recognizing them and by developing those strategies to overcome them and flexing that willpower muscle, we can move towards a more growth-oriented way of being.
And this all kind of ties back to what we talked about earlier, right? That genuine commitment to growth. It's an ongoing journey. It's self-awareness, it's effort, it's practice.
Yeah.
But it's not just about us as individuals, right?
Right.
Dweck also talks about how we can foster this growth mindset in others.
She does, yeah.
And this is huge, right? Because this goes beyond personal development. This is about impacting, families, schools, workplaces, like entire systems.
Exactly.
So how do we do that? How do we, pass on this valuable mindset to the next generation? What are some like practical tips for parents, for educators?
Well, one of the most powerful things we can do is actually just change the way we praise children. So instead of praising intelligence or talent, which really just reinforces that idea of fixed abilities, we should praise the process, praise the effort, praise the strategies they used.
So instead of saying, you're so smart, it's more about saying, wow, you really worked hard on that, or I love how you didn't give up even when it got challenging.
Exactly. Yeah, we need to shift the focus from the outcome to the process. And equally important, we need to help them reframe their understanding of failure.
Okay, this is a tough one, right? Especially in a society where failure is like equated with shame. So how do we actually teach kids to see failure as a valuable learning experience?
Well, it starts with us. We have to model that mindset ourselves. We can talk openly about our own mistakes, what we've learned from them. We can encourage them to try new things, even if they might not succeed right away. And we can celebrate their effort and their persistence, even when the outcome isn't what they hoped for.
So it's about creating a safe and supportive environment where they feel comfortable taking risks, knowing that it's okay to make mistakes.
Exactly, yeah. And this goes beyond just children, right? These principles, they apply to our interactions with anyone, whether it's our students, our employees, or even our partners.
It's about fostering a culture of growth, right? Where everyone feels empowered to learn, develop, and reach their full potential. But how do we move beyond, just talking about growth mindset to actually living it? I know Dweck, she gets into some real life dilemmas, right?
She does.
That really force us to confront our own mindsets.
Yeah, she does. And it gets to the heart of, how we react in those challenging moments.
Mm-hmm.
For example, imagine you're offered this fantastic job opportunity. It could really catapult your career forward.
Mm-hmm.
But it requires you to learn a whole new set of skills, and you're going to have to step way outside your comfort zone.
It's exciting, but it's also super intimidating.
Yeah.
So what might someone with a fixed mindset do in that situation?
Well, they might hesitate. They might be paralyzed by that fear of failure or looking incompetent. Their internal dialogue might sound something like, what if I'm not good enough? What if I mess up and everyone sees that I'm a fraud?
Yeah, I've definitely been there. Those self-doubts, they can be so crippling. So how would someone with a growth mindset approach that same situation?
They'd see it as a challenge.
Yeah.
It's an incredible opportunity to learn and grow. And sure, they might stumble along the way, but they're going to embrace that process. They know that the real reward is in, expanding their skills and knowledge.
So it's about focusing on the long-term gains rather than the short-term discomfort or that fear of failing.
Right.
And Dweck, she also uses the example of receiving, harsh criticism.
Oh, yeah, we've all been there.
Ouch, yeah. Imagine you've poured your heart and soul into this project and someone just tears it apart.
Yeah.
It's so easy to take it personally, feel defeated, and just want to crawl under a rock and disappear.
Yeah, that's the fixed mindset talking, right?
Right.
Someone with a growth mindset, they would see that criticism as valuable feedback. They might ask for more specifics. They might analyze their mistakes. And ultimately, they would use that criticism to improve their work.
So it's about finding that opportunity for growth, even in those really painful moments of critique.
Yeah, it requires resilience, it
Mm-hmm.
requires humility, and it requires a willingness to learn from our mistakes.
And another dilemma that Dweck presents is encountering someone who's simply better than you at something.
Right.
That feeling of inadequacy when you realize, oh, wow, I have a lot more to learn.
Right.
Yeah.
And someone with a fixed mindset, they might feel really threatened or envious. They might downplay the other person's achievements, or they might even just avoid them altogether.
It's like their ego just can't handle the fact that someone else is excelling in an area that they value.
Yeah.
But someone with a growth mindset, they would actually see this as a fantastic opportunity to learn. They might seek mentorship, they might observe the other person's techniques, and they would use that other person's success as inspiration for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead of feeling deflated, they're energized by the chance to step up their own game.
Exactly. Exactly.
And this all comes back to Dweck's emphasis on action, right? It's not enough to just think positive thoughts. We actually have to translate those thoughts into concrete actions.
Right. She talks about the importance of creating those implementation intentions that we discussed earlier. It's about having a plan for how you're going to respond to those fixed mindset triggers. It's about being proactive, not reactive.
It's like having a mental script ready for those moments of doubt or challenge.
Yeah.
And the more we practice this, the more natural it becomes to choose that growth-oriented response.
Exactly. And as we do that, we strengthen our willpower. We build up that mental muscle that allows us to choose growth, again and again.
It's powerful. It means that we're not just at the mercy of our automatic reactions. We actually have the power to choose a different path.
Exactly. And that's the empowering message of Dweck's work. We're not limited by those innate abilities. We can change, we can grow, we can become more than we are today.
Yeah, it is. It's incredibly empowering to realize we have more control over our destinies than we might think. It's not about erasing those fixed mindset tendencies altogether, but it's about recognizing them, right?
Right.
And actually choosing to take a different path. And this journey of growth, it's not just about us as individuals, right?
Right.
When we embrace this growth mindset, it impacts those around us. I mean, think about the impact we can have, as parents, teachers, mentors, even just as friends and colleagues.
Absolutely.
It's huge, but how do we make sure we're not just talking the talk, right? How do we actually walk the walk?
Well, I think we need to be really mindful of the messages we're sending,
Okay.
both through our words and our actions. Like, are we praising effort and learning?
Mhm.
Or are we, maybe inadvertently reinforcing a fixed mindset by focusing on talent or intelligence?
Mhm.
Are we creating environments that encourage risk-taking and learning from mistakes?
Mm.
Or are we kind of, stifling growth with our own fear of failure?
It's a call to action, to
Yeah.
really examine our own beliefs, our own behaviors, and make sure they're aligned with this growth mindset philosophy.
Absolutely. And it goes beyond just awareness, right? It's about actively seeking out opportunities for growth,
Mm-hmm.
both for ourselves and for those around us.
Mm.
It's about embracing those challenges, seeking feedback, and really viewing setbacks as those valuable learning experiences.
It's about creating a world where everyone feels empowered to learn, to grow, and to contribute their own, unique talents.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of a growth mindset, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about individual achievement. It's about collective progress, creating a society where everyone has that opportunity to reach their full potential.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into mindset, what's that one final thought you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Okay.
What's that spark, right? That'll ignite their curiosity and really inspire them to kind of explore this power of mindset in their own lives.
Well, think about an area, in your own life where you feel stuck or challenged. It could be a personal goal you've been putting off, a relationship that feels stagnant, or even a professional hurdle you can't seem to overcome. And I want you to ask yourself, How might a growth mindset approach help you navigate this situation? What would it look like to really embrace that challenge, to focus on effort and learning and to persist through those setbacks?
It's a powerful question, and for anyone listening who wants to kind of, you know, dive even deeper into the psychology of success and really unlock their own potential, I highly recommend checking out Mindset by Carol Dweck. It's a game changer.
It really is. It provides a really profound and actionable framework for understanding our beliefs and really harnessing their power to, achieve our goals and live a more fulfilling life.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep believing in your incredible potential.